The idea behind the empowerment layer, as I said, once you've built up digital trails, how can we use the digital trails to your advantage? The way you have to think about it is today, we all have a lot of data that's with various entities. But all of this data, even though it pertains to us, is under the control of someone else. And so the question for us is, how do we unlock the value in this data for our benefit? How do we break it out of the silo? And how do we do that breaking out of a silo in a way that's actually privacy preserving and gets us whatever value we need? Because remember, what we're doing is we are suggesting that we give data to someone else. So from one person who has the data to another, and you know that if we don't think about this and do it carefully, it could actually violate our privacy. It could cause us a lot of harm. So in designing this empowerment layer, we had to, on the one hand, unlock the data from the silos in which they're in. And on the other hand, we had to ensure that we did this in a way that was privacy preserved, and that in trying to empower someone, we didn't actually expose them very, very dramatically to significant risk. And that really is the data empowerment and protection architecture, which is a protocol that currently has been rolled out in the financial services sector it's called the account aggregator that the RBI operates. What the account aggregator system does is it essentially connects through the means of a new intermediary called the consent manager or the account aggregator in the financial ecosystem, a host of data providers to data consumers. And I think the best way to explain this would be with an example. If someone wants to give you a loan, typically they would ask you for some information in order to evaluate your eligibility for a loan. Let's say they ask you for 6 months bank statements. The way you would currently do it today is you'd go to your bank and you would ask them for a 6 months bank statement. They may give it to you digitally, they may give you a printout. Whichever way they do it, you then carry that to the potential lender and you say, look, here's the information you asked. The lender will evaluate it. This is a time-consuming process. It's also a costly process. We estimate that it would cost something like 1,500 rupees to process a loan. That's just the cost of sort of doing this evaluation, if you were doing it in this physical, non-digital way. What DPI does is it makes this entire process digital. You make the request to the consent manager. The consent manager, with your consent, the consent manager will then send you a consent request on your app. It'll look pretty much like a UPI payment request. You'll be able to study who's asked for the information, what exact information they've asked for, and then you'll be able to authorize it. And then once you authorize it, the consent manager takes this digitally signed consent request that's now been approved by the user and sends it to the bank, saying that, look, now the user instructed you to send this information. Now you have to generate the information and give it to us. And then that information is packaged. Essentially, the 6 months bank statement that was requested is collected, digitally signed, encrypted, and sent to the person asking for it. So what would have taken 1 or 2 days in this old physical world now happens just like in a matter of seconds. And then the lender has this information, can evaluate you. The lender can actually, what's more important is the lender can actually trust this information. If we were doing it the old physical way, what's to stop someone from using Photoshop to change the bank statements in their favor or doing something like that? And the lender would have no way to evaluate that. In fact, after a year and a half of running the account aggregator ecosystem, a very remarkable statistic came out. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the book, but fraud rates using the DPI system dropped to 0. Now, it's very difficult for people to use the word 0 when you talk about rates. But in the DPI ecosystem, actually, fraud rates have dropped down to 0. Because it is actually impossible to commit fraud when the systems are designed such that it is, completely end-to-end digital. There's no human intervention in the middle, and you have an audit trail because every statement is digitally signed. So that is sort of the some of the remarkable statistics around what this new empowerment phase of DPI can do.